Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this weekly ag weather update brought to you by Farm Credit. I want to begin with a quick look at the satellite data on Monday here, Labor Day. We spent most of the day clear. In fact, we had our temperatures really climb up deep into the 90s under clear skies, and there wasn't a whole lot of rain anywhere near us. In fact, the closest storms were down here across the lower Mississippi River Valley, a place that desperately needed it, and also Gert, which is over here, the remnants of Gert. Now, there's a lot of things we got to be talking about in this upcoming forecast, especially with the tropics. But as I play this forward, as the sun was setting here on the evening of, Monday evening, Labor Day evening, it was clear skies out. Our storms were lining up along the Mississippi. Now, we look back over the last week and we can see the incredibly heavy rains from Idalia. And if I just kind of take a quick look in here, extremely heavy, 6 to 10 inches plus of rains here. We saw tropical storm force winds make it pretty far inland, had quite a bit of damage in southern Georgia coming out of Florida here, but a lot of flooding. There's some very, very heavy rain. Now, if you were north of a line about right in through here, most of your rainfall that you see on this map came from the days leading up to this. We had 3 days of thunderstorm activity in this area because of a stalled out frontal boundary. Outside of that, most of it was from Idalia. Now, I'm going to put this into broader context, though, because we're going to talk about a couple of different facets around the country. So the first is to give you the 30-day precipitation percent of normal map. Now, what was interesting was leading up to Idalia, we were actually drier throughout much of this area. So when you add in Idalia's rainfall, even though it's now registering over the last 30 days, 200 to 250% of normal, that just shows you how dry it was because some of the rainfall totals in here did top 10 inches. So it's incredible to see what that looks like. Outside of it, look at this whole part of our cotton belt down here, just incredibly hot and dry. Look at this part of the upper Midwest, major corn and soybean acres, and from Nebraska to Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota that have missed out on a lot of rainfall. Coming out of Kansas to Missouri, also big soybean area here that has been very dry as the crop has been attempting to finish, to set pod, to fill them. And we've got problems here in the Midwest with our soybean crop because of this. This also nicked some of the corn that was attempting to finish, some of the later planted corn that needed more moisture to get to the finish line here. So this is just some good perspective. But if you don't mind, I'm going to stretch this way out and show you summer. Now, technically, summer ends on September 21st, but meteorological summer is just generally considered to be June, July, and August. So that's what we're going to look at here. The total precipitation ranks for June, July, and August. Remember, the data go back to 1893. So anywhere that's got 131 like this is the driest summer on record. Look at how dry things have been down here. Look how dry it's been in the Southwest. Look at the upper Midwest. Extremely dry June, which led into pockets of dryness right in through here in July and August. And as a result, we've seen some major yield loss in this area. But into the Carolinas, if there's been a spot that struggled with drought the most, it's going to be this section of North Carolina. That is not to say we haven't been dry in parts of Georgia and South Carolina throughout the season, but this has been our area that we've been concerned about most with some drought. Now, as we start to transition this into a forecast, we just need to step back and think about where we've been and where we're going. Because to be honest with you, we're going to have to live inside of a 1 to 2 week window through the month of September because of hurricane season. And just speaking of hurricane season, we're currently right about here. So we're another, over the next 20 days, we reach the peak. The climatological peak is basically in the next 20 days. So you still have 60% of the hurricane season ahead of you. And that's why I say we got to live within this kind of 1 to 2 week window of forecasting because one hurricane can change everything about the forecast, all right? So thinking about that, I want to tell you what's going on right now. Got a couple of areas to keep an eye on. There's Katia, what's left of it. There's a tropical disturbance coming off of Africa that's given a 60% chance of developing, and another one here that's got a 100% chance of developing. So to be honest, by the time we probably talk next, this one could get a name. By the way, let's go take a look at the names. I should know this, but let's go with NHC Atlantic Hurricane names. There we go. And if we click on this, we'll see that the next name on the list would be Lee. Now, what's interesting is Katia right here. This name list we're using in 2023 was also the one that we used in 2005. So Katia was the name that was put on the list once Katrina was retired. So Lee would be our next system to come out here. And we can see right now that there's a pretty good chance that Lee could be named right here. But I want to tell you something about tropical systems that form this far to the east. The vast majority of them make the turn north into the Atlantic before hitting landfall. And you're seeing some of that right in here with where potentially the system named Lee could go. Now, there's always a lot of reasons for this, but I also want to make sure I state here that I didn't say all tropical systems do this, and we will have to watch Lee very carefully. Because remember, in 2018, Florence started here and made it all the way over to our coast, giving us our records. It set our records in terms of rainfall totals and damage. So we're going to watch what could be named Lee as it moves across the open Atlantic, goes north of the Lesser Antilles. We're going to watch for it to make a turn. Now, the reason why I have confidence in it making a turn is because of this. Now watch this animation. You're looking at the winds in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. These are the steering winds for a tropical system. And even though we know that waters are quite warm out ahead of this, we're looking for what the winds could possibly do. So playing through Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I just took you way out there. That's where what could be named Lee would be. And what I want you to see is that as we go into the weekend, as it would be making its approach this weekend and early next week toward the East Coast, there's a problem. There's a deep trough in the polar jet there. There's a subtropical piece to it here coming into the base of, or the bottom, the southern side of this jet streak, which means we got some good pull on the wind here. And there's a ridge that's going to be sitting right in this area. So what does that mean? That means Lee will likely make the turn here and then get pulled into the base of this trough, the southern side of this trough, the entrance region of this trough. And what that means is these winds that are coming, from the land onto the ocean are likely going to steer whatever is there with Lee out. So the timing right now with this trough is what is the most determining factor on the fact that we don't think that Lee is going to hit the United States. We're going to watch it carefully, but that's the latest evidence that we've got. Now, one other thing I want to show you here. Let's go to the ensemble plots. Let's go to the full run. Look at the chances of anything developing. Yeah, that's it. That's all they've got out there right now. And why I say that's all they've got is because we've been watching a couple of things take shape here. This is the MJO phase diagram. And right now you see these lines over here representing a transition of the MJO where it had been for quite some time over in the Western Hemisphere or near Africa. It's now moved over the maritime continent. Now what's that? Maritime continent is Australia. And so what this all means is better seen in this diagram. And I'm going to show you why I look at these every day. They're called Hofmuller diagrams. This is today. This is going forward all the way to September the 19th. So as you look at this, you need to line it up with the map on the bottom. So right now, today, these colors represent sinking motion in the atmosphere. Think of it as a lid on the atmosphere. And where do they sit? Right on top of South America. They sit in the Caribbean, the Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico. They're right in this area. So that's why we're seeing systems after Idalia, because remember, Idalia formed when there was great upper level support. After that, we're seeing just a weaker setup in the atmosphere. It's not looking too good. But this, as I'm drawing a line through it, is where the MJO is going. That's how we visualize it. So it started off in phase 1. It's moving over here to phase 3 and 4. It'll be there by the end of this week. Then by the time we get into next week, it'll be over here, out into the open Pacific. So that movement is eventually, if you just keep following this, is going to keep going like this on the diagram, which takes it back over the top of the main development region for the Atlantic. Long story short, we go into a time period where the atmosphere is less conducive, not shut off, but less conducive to building big tropical systems. It can still make them, don't get me wrong, but it's less favorable of an environment. Then we get past the middle of the month and all that goes back in the other direction. It seems as though the end of the month will have a more favorable environment. The second half of the month will have a more favorable environment for tropical systems to form. So with that as a backdrop, this is what I got for you the next week. Overall, we do not see a pattern that's really setting up here that's going to be aggressively wet. We have multiple chances of getting some rain in this area, but we've got the wrong setup to deliver big time rain. All right. We have a system exiting here. We have storms right now over the lower Mississippi River Valley, and there'll be a front coming through here late this week that's going to give us our first chance. It looks something like this. High res, European model. There's the storms that we were talking about on Monday. Let's get out to Tuesday now. So by the time we go from Tuesday into Tuesday night and Wednesday, this low goes over the Great Lakes. It's bringing its front in through here. And that's really the first chance outside of some isolated storms that we're going to have by Friday to get a front coming through. And now you're going, wait a minute, you're not even pointing at anything here. Well, you can see that as we play through the day on Friday, there's just better chances of getting scattered showers and storms in this area. And that'll be it. That'll be by Friday, when the front comes through, that we get that chance. Now, after this, going into Saturday and Sunday, that front has a hard time making it out over the open oceans. We could still see some scattered showers and storms over the weekend with the cooler air that's coming in. But then into early next week, Monday and Tuesday, there comes whatever it gets named, Lee, would be the next name on the list. So if this is the one that makes it first, that'll be the name of it. As it starts to approach, remember what the jet was doing. See this high pressure cell? That's all within a broader trough. That's going to be allowing the jet stream to accelerate in that direction. So this is going to take the flow with it. And as it does, it's going to keep Lee away, but give us chances for rain midweek next week as another front comes down. So that's your best chances. We have a chance this weekend as the front comes through. Then we have a chance midweek next week as the jet dives in and Lee approaches. So over the next 10 days, this is what you've got. This is the precipitation anomaly forecast. We're wettest here because we have the chance on Friday and then the chance midweek next week, bringing up better precipitation totals in that area. This could really fluctuate a lot, but we're at least looking at the latest data we've got. We're drier farther to the south. Now, the European model is going to give us a better clue on who's really going to be dry. Because as you look at it, well, we have our best chances. In fact, let's go look at that first. Our best chances in through here of grabbing at least, let's go get that full 10-day. There we go. At least an inch is about 50% in this area. But on the drier side of that equation, let's go back to it now. You notice as you get into South Carolina and Georgia, the chances of getting less than a half inch are higher. It's also higher right in through here, parts of the Midwest, the Tennessee Valley. And we've got a lot of places that are drier on our doorstep. And what I'm watching most carefully is the dryness that's right here in the midsection of the country. The reason I'm watching that more than any other location is because last fall we got really, really dry in here as well. And it dried up so much that the Mississippi River was pulled way back from its normal flow levels down to up to 12 feet below its low stage. Now we can still see some of our areas showing up dry, but we just got dumped on for rain in the last 7 days, most of Ag South territory here. So let's put some focus back here on the Corn Belt. This is what the Mississippi River is doing right now. It is 5.24 feet below low stage. A year ago at this time, it was only 3.62 feet below low stage, on its way to about 12 feet below low stage down here. So the concern is the forecast shows up drier across this area for a 10-day stretch. When are we going to start to bring some moisture into that region? Well, there is better news, but it's not a cure. Let me show what I'm talking about. As I play you through this week, the one thing that I really just didn't see last week was this. We end up getting, by Saturday, a deep trough forming here with a ridge that becomes a bit more amplified but anchored over New Mexico. That's what's helping this trough reform in this area, and that's what's going to help keep whatever happens with Lee away. But what happens after this is what I did not see. You see, playing out there through Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we get the kind of the reintroduction to a deeper trough over Alaska, over the Aleutian Islands. And anytime there's troughing in this area, the jet goes around it, bumps up here, and then dives over the east. So that means going to middle of the month, we're going to see some cooler temperatures and better chances for rain, because anytime you see a trough like this, just expect there to be better lift in the atmosphere. So the week 2 forecast is wetter and wetter. Even the GFS, which has been out to lunch for a long time, is even got a similar pattern. Personally, I think the European model has got it right for week 2. I think we see near normal precipitation, chances of being a bit wetter farther up toward the mid-Atlantic, and we're wetter in the central United States. So keep that in your mind. I'm going to give you the long-range forecast in just a second. Next, let's talk temperatures, and let's do summer again, June, July, August. It's amazing to think how cool we were at times in June and again in August when the Bermuda high left. And what we had in through here was several climate reporting districts in Ag South territory that were on the colder side of the distribution. It was only along the coast that we were warmer. Now Florida, parts of Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, near record hot. And it wasn't just during the average temperatures, it was really in the overnight lows. Now look at this. Parts of the Carolinas into central South Carolina, then getting down here into southern Georgia. You see a lot of single digits. That means that this would be in the top 10 warmest overnight lows for a summer on record. And that's very important to crop health. So please keep that in mind as you think about where this is going from this point forward as to how warm these overnight lows were in this area. All right, what are our temperatures doing? Well, this is how things were on Labor Day. By the time we get into the afternoon highs on Tuesday, we're talking well into the 90s in North Carolina down to Georgia. By Wednesday, it's another hot one in through here, but the front's diving into the Midwest. There it is on Thursday. By Friday, it's on our doorstep here, and then by Saturday, we cool off. That's it. This whole time period, though, Texas stays under the heat. We get a break in the Midwest here, and that seems to want to last. Now, this was not well positioned last week in the models, and I didn't have a lot of evidence to overturn last week's model runs, but take a look. That's your next 5 days. Okay, we've already talked about the heat we've got this week until the weekend, but let me get past that and show you day 5 through 10. Look at the cooler air that just came in here. And then day 10 through 15, the trough settles in. There it is, because of a ridge that's here across the west and a trough that's over the Aleutian Islands. So there it is. We get to the middle of the month and we're now looking at a cooler signal. And last week, I could have fully justified what the Climate Prediction Center put out. This made a lot of sense to us last week. We thought that the ridge was going to just stay open and stay in place from like Texas to Michigan, keeping a big section of the country warmer than average and drier than average. And I think the Climate Prediction Center on Tuesday morning will just scrap this and go with a different outlook, because this is not going to verify the way they've got it here. So what's going on? What's causing the changes? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with El Nino. Now, we know our Atlantic Ocean temperatures are warm. And by the way, that's the cold water trail from Franklin. But this El Nino continues to get stronger and stronger and have repeated kind of surges of grip on our pattern. Let me show you the latest. This is the Southern Oscillation Index. It's a measurement of the trade winds, essentially. It's a pressure pattern measurement way out in the Pacific. Now, if it's below -7, which is this line right in through here, we've got El Nino conditions. And look at it. It's dropping way down. It's making a little recovery, then dropping way down again. And that kind of behavior tells us that El Nino is going to start to dominate this pattern. Now, I said it earlier, forecasting for the month of September, even into early October, we have to live week by week to do it accurately and with skill, because it's hurricane season. But when we get past that, I got to show you this. This data just came out. It is looking at October, November, December, and looking at precipitation anomalies. It's from a model run in the United States called the CFS, and it is wetter in through here. In fact, it's got a very active subtropical branch of the jet stream, and it's not the wettest. What is the wettest model right now is the Canadians, the CANSIPS model. Very aggressive on a strong subtropical jet coming into California, zipping across Mexico, and then just running over the south. We could possibly see this winter a lot of what are called Miller B type storm systems or Miller A type storm systems that race across axial territory. And this could be, I guess what I would call kind of an ugly winter. But ugly winters tend to lead to phenomenal growing seasons. So let's keep an eye out on this together. One last thing. South America, they were given permission to plant early, but we've heard it's been kind of rescinded. It's been redacted or whatever. It's been taken away. It doesn't matter. They're allowed to plant in 11 days anyway, or 10 days if you're watching this on Tuesday. And right now it's a bit dry. And it was wetter earlier in the last 10 days, but they've gone back over to a drier forecast. You know why, right? The MJO is causing suppression here. But there's a front to the south in Paraguay. This is Rio Grande do Sul. That's in southern Brazil. And this is Uruguay. And that black line in through there is the Paraná River. And we've got some wet conditions hitting this, which is going to have an impact on the long-standing drought that has been in Argentina and southern Brazil. Now, the reason why we're concerned about fast planting is because normally during El Ninos, they tend to struggle a bit with moisture north, and then the monsoon tends to slow down or shut off like in early April rather than early May. So there's a lot of urgency to get this crop going and get it established, despite the commodity prices as they currently are. So we'll watch South America carefully, and I'll report back to you again next week. Next week, I'll also have brand new long-range data from the European model to add to our global models for the outlook for fall and winter. We'll bring that to you then. Thanks.